I saw a problem. The problem was most people didn't know how to share the gospel. The problem was most people didn't know how to do just regular street evangelism. I just got audacious enough to put that inflatable thing on top of I think it was a Ford Explorer actually at the time. And I just freaking went and preached the gospel, and signs, wonders, and miracles were happening in apartment complexes. Literally, opened the door. Hey, the Lord said, whack, and the Lord just moves. And I'm like, I got a baptismal. And so I literally just took the camera and I started learning how to play with, focus and how to play with angles. And, if I get underneath the bike and at this angle, it looks like he's 15 feet in the air when he's really this high off the ground. That took me to strapping myself to a zip line harness, climbing a 30-foot pole, and jumping off a pole with the camera in midair, spinning, shooting, filming a shot of another kid coming across while I'm going over him. I mean, getting those outlandish shots, but are the coolest shots in the world. We didn't have no swing arms. We didn't have no drones. I was the drone. Or what are you going to do? Wake up 10 years from now and go, I didn't go for it. No. If there's anything I could say in all this is find some courage, believe in yourself enough, humble yourself, get around people that'll teach you, and the sky's the limit. I know the fact that if a man sets the table for his family and calls his family back to the table, we could restore America.
It's a heavy sentence, bro.
It's a heavy sentence that only God could do, and it's a God dream. And I only want to live in God dreams.
Jake Freels, welcome to the podcast.
Man, I'm excited about this one.
So say somebody's struggling and they have a God-sized dream and vision for the stories that they want to tell, but they have no idea how to get there. I mean, how to even start. What are some breadcrumbs that you could lay along the way to say, this is a good start? This is how you get into this business, in this industry.
Yeah, I think you get into a moment where you start dreaming for a problem that you can solve. It's way over your head. But I've always been told if you see the problem, then you're supposed to be part of the solution. So for me, that's meant a lot of different things over all the years. And I've looked at, in whether it's film, whether it's media, whether it's marketing, whether it's a movement, whatever it is for me, there's a problem in front of me and I'm going to solve it. And I'm going to figure out everything I can do to solve that problem. And so in regards to, doing film, it was, I know what's in my hand, and what's in my hand is I can see what we need to go do to make the film, but then I need the money to do it, right? And that's
Right.
the biggest that's the big one, right? I mean, that's where everybody goes from either doing something or not doing, especially with film. And what was in my hand was I could flip houses at the time. So I would go flip a house and then fund the whole project myself. I just started doing what was in my hand. And then other people came along, and I've got to do partnerships, and I've got to work with other individuals, and and the other thing is that, friends working together to try and solve the problem together. I think that's a huge piece to being able to solve a problem is, one, what's in your hand, two, who's around you. And, you and I, we've done that for a long time now. We've seen problems and go solve it together and, figure out how to make it work, and we bootstrap it or we just do it,
Absolutely. And what I noticed as you're just laying it out, first you do bop, 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 and you go down the road, which means it's probably second nature to you. But if you're just getting started in it, maybe you could take us back to your first project. I even hesitate to ask you the question of, was it fully funded and just dove straight in? How did you start?
My first project when I was probably 13 years old. My mom had a camera, throw it up on your shoulder, and I was going to film us doing extreme sports. And I did. I started filming us jumping bicycles, and learning how to get the angle. This was before YouTube and all that stuff. There was no learning. There was no learning unless you just did it. And so I literally just took the camera and I started learning how to play with, focus and how to play with angles. And, if I get underneath the bike and at this angle, it looks like he's 15 feet in the air when he's really this high off the ground.
Right.
but I could totally manipulate the shot because I just started learning, and I just, but I started as a young kid. I mean, figuring out, I just was always drawn to how to make something look cool or fun or exciting, all that. And then I was also simultaneously the lead character in every play, every drama. And
You had a flair for the dramatic.
I have.
That's amazing.
Let's just say I like to.
Being at heart.
I like to be on the other side of the camera in front of the people, whatever it is. Yeah, I'm very theatrical. But it was a love of mine. I mean, I just freaking loved it, and I always was just trying to figure out how to do it. And then I started getting around people that were better than me. That's number one. Number one, get around people that are better than you. I don't care what it is, whether it's film, whether it's adventure, whether it's excitement, whether it's business, whatever it is. Yeah. Get around other people that are 1, 2, 3, 400 steps down the road and just learn. Watch them, ask questions. That's the best way to learn. You can go to school for all this stuff. You can go sit in YouTube and bang out YouTube all day long.
So true.
But practical application and watching somebody and letting them teach you.
Dude, there's nothing like it. Now, I'm the biggest proponent. I don't want to derail your train of thought. Hold on to it. I'm the biggest proponent of YouTube.
Me too.
Go in there, learn you a skill, you can get into it. But if you want to shrink that timetable down, and if you want to know the nuances of, say, a particular scenario or settings on your camera or how to actually implement your content to where people will want to watch it, that comes so fast. Like you're saying,
so fast.
With a mentor or with somebody who's a little bit further down the road that you get to tag along with and go, oh, that's how that happened.
Well, and what YouTube, what YouTube doesn't do 99% of the time is it does not teach you on the fly how to adjust, how to fix it, how to change, how to, adapt. And
I've been there. I'm sure you have too, where you're going, hold on just a second. When you're by yourself, let me watch a quick.
This one does
anything on a short, a minute and a half. We'll be right with y'all. Although we're going to minute and a half. How to adjust your exposure. Yeah.
No, but when you got an expert or a senior producer or whoever in the room, hey, we're going to, okay, now let's go.
Yeah.
Versus, like you just said. And that's where, for you, I followed you for a long time learning everything that you did. I was a sponge. I watched you do everything you did. And I was just like, I need to understand this craft better, and you knew it better than I did in different facets that I just started watching you, and vice versa. I think we both we learned so much from each other that we grew together so much faster than we could have ever done it apart,
I see. I didn't even know. It makes sense now, but where we first started to overlap, I saw you. My mother-in-law had found you online, and apparently y'all had known each other in the past. I didn't know anything about it at the time, but y'all had known each other in the past, and I was watching you dunk people. And by dunk, I mean you were baptizing folks in a horse trough that was strapped to the roof of your Yukon or whatever it was that you had. You would go meet people on the street, pray with them, the Lord would encounter them, and then they'd give their lives to Jesus, and then you dunk them right there. And I'm like, I'm watching these videos, and not only is it like, it's raw, it's faith. That was, at the time, that was cutting edge. That was out with, I can't remember, it was a long-haired dread guy, Todd White, and all those.
Yeah, that was right when that was on.
You guys were cutting edge on all that stuff, and so I was mesmerized by that. But you had, it was like curated, like you had the shot set up like you wanted it. You could tell you were in it, but you had coached somebody as in like what needs to come out, how it needs to be framed. It was really good.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you even knew that, but
again, that was one of those things the Lord told me start displaying it so people could see, and I didn't even know where that was going to go. I had no clue, I saw a problem. The problem was most people didn't know how to share the gospel. The problem was most people didn't know how to do just regular street evangelism. And, I just got audacious enough to put that inflatable, thing on top of my, I think it was a Ford Explorer actually at the time. And I just freaking went and preached the gospel, and signs, wonders, and miracles are happening in apartment complexes. Literally, like, open the door. Hey, the Lord said, whack, and the Lord just moves. And I'm like, I got a baptismal. I mean, it's just
Everything stopping you from giving your life
it's
to the Lord.
it's just ridiculous to think about, but it was happening, and it was real, and it was authentic, and like there was no like manipulation to it. I wasn't trying to make money off of it or anything. I just was like, this is so real. Like, this is it was easy at the time. Like, I just was doing it because I loved it so much, But I think media has a exponential power
Yes.
to take a moment and turn it into a movement.
Now, I want to expand on that a little bit. There's a guy named Omar El Takari. I don't think you know who he is, but if you do, he's a podcaster. He's big time in the space, and he has this deal where he's kind of tweaked the 7 mountains. So you got your 7 mountains. I can't remember them all, but basically, government, education, media,
school,
entertainment. I can't remember. Church, religion was one of them.
Yep.
There's 7.
Yep.
But he takes media off the board, and he says because now media is in all of those. It's essential to all of those things.
That makes sense.
And I think I still like the 7 mountains because we are believers and we love 7, and 7 rolls off the tongue a little bit better. But I think there's a lot of truth that if you are a business owner, entrepreneur today, or if you're a pastor, if you're an evangelist, if you're trying to get the message out there, you're going to overlap with media at some space.
Yeah,
that's where we live.
Unless you're in your house and that's all it is to you. But
living under a rock somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, but even then, everybody in the room is going to have a cell phone.
That's what's crazy to me is you are actually one of a few number of my friends. I would say I could probably count them on one hand that are actually in the space grinding it out, like producing content. I would say the rest of the folks that I roll with, they have withdrawn from. They still watch it, but they're not producing. And what that's left is this void of like garbage content that comes out. Or, and I mean garbage in the respect that like it's either evil or it's dark, or I mean it's
just no intrinsic. There's just no intrinsic value
to it.
Yeah,
you're left with what people used to think of a Christian movie before, like The Chosen, and we'll get into all that here in just a minute because I know you have a background. We'll mix with some of that.
Yeah,
but a B level movie was as best you could expect for Christian content.
If that. I think B's even giving it some grace, I mean,
when we're supposed to be the most creative people on
we should be top shelf. Yeah. No doubt.
Well, tell us a little bit, what about your first where you had to interact with money? You got started when you're about 13. You want to be in front of the camera. It still do. Thrive in that space. Where did you take on your first project where you're like, this thing needs to make some money?
I would say, I think for me, where I was in the mode of making money was I was actually making money in the sense of creating marketing for people or for ministries or different things like that. So not in the sense of exchanging dollars for my service of film or for my service of marketing, but exchanging it for the betterment of the organization, right? So, so much of what I did was I would come into an organization, like let's just take, for instance, when I was in college, Carolina Creek Christian Camp. A good friend of mine was hired as the videographer to do all of the synopsis reels, and everything, but I always was like, why are we not getting the dynamic shots? Like, let's get the shots that I think will sell even more. That took me to strapping myself to a zip line harness, climbing a 30-foot pole, and jumping off a pole with the camera in midair, spinning, shooting, filming a shot of another kid coming across while I'm going over him. I mean, like getting those outlandish shots, but are the coolest shots in the world. We didn't have no swing arms. We didn't have no drones. I was the drone. I mean, I just figured out how can I climb and how can I get in the top of that tree and film from this angle, because I knew it would add just such a dynamic value. the experience, right? You're selling an experience. You're selling a package. You're not selling a come to camp and your kid will be better. It's no, look what your kid's going to be a part of. He's going to be jumping off this thing and flying through the air, and then he's going to be hitting a wave and again doing some cool trick and then singing and dancing and swimming and playing. But the action shots coming out of the water and filming coming out of the water, you know what I mean? Like the experience, like do it from first person, doing an encounter moment, you know? So, you know, I'd always try and bring value. I'd add value to everything that I did was, again, what's the problem and how do I solve it? Because if I solve problems, then I'm valuable in whatever that means.
Did we check out the beat while the DJ revolves it?
What?
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I'm sorry. I've heard that 2 times in my head. I'm singing Vanilla Ice.
Oh. I played basketball with Vanilla Ice right here in Stephenville, actually.
That's amazing.
I did. He was here doing a concert, and I went and played.
He became a phenomenal businessman and believer, didn't he?
Big time. So from what I understand, I mean, I don't know the man, but from what I understand. But so anyway, that just turned into I added value. Then it turned into my value brought money to the table. So now the organization is bringing in more people because I brought more value.
Oh, come on.
Okay. Yeah. Then go into the next phase, you know, whatever it was, a church. I would be producing and help producing inside of a church, putting our face out there, our name out there, who we were. And again, more people started flooding into the church. That's if you think of it in a dollar sense, that's people putting inside the building, people coming in. And I always did it as a service, as an act of service, you know. And as that all grew, you know, I got to the part to where I started producing to actually try and make money as well, you know, while I was producing. And, you know, Heart of Many Colors was the first one that I really jumped off of and, you know, funded the whole thing. And we flew.
What is Heart of Many Colors?
Yeah, Heart of Many Colors was that moment where I said people don't know how to share the gospel and they don't know what the gospel really is. So I had this whole thing that I'd written out, this curriculum. And I said, I want to film it, but I want to film it all over the world. I want people to see that this is not inside of a church building. This isn't from behind a pew. This isn't from behind a pulpit. This is in creation. This is in cities. This is in small towns. This is in remote villages. And it's what is the kingdom, you know? And so I worked through all of that. We did 52 episodes and launched it.
What was, if you can remember, what was your projected budget on
that? The real budget, should have been about $125,000 in the day.
I'm asking because I think a lot of people may have a passion project on their heart. I know that I do, for instance.
Yeah.
And we're not entirely sure sometimes where to start.
Yeah.
You know, how to tackle that elephant and how to even project out, like, what's that gonna cost?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, and I'm asking you this question, you knew how big that elephant was because you'd been trying to tackle it in the past, or you're just like,
well, I think it was twofold. I think it was, I had no clue how big truly the elephant was until we bit off on the first episode, and then it was like, oh man.
And you're saying we because we
worked on that together. We
you
did.
Asked me to
yes,
come in as a videographer on it, and that was a blast.
Oh my gosh, bro, that was still some of the funnest days of my life. You know, still to date. I mean, but you know, again, I remember back to when we started it. We filmed that first one, and it was local here in town on a friend's ranch. But it looks so majestic, and beautiful.
A God moment.
It was just God.
We went out there, and you're like, "Hey, I think God's in this thing. Here's the curriculum. You want to do some filming with me? Let's just do a trial run."
Yeah.
Out at this guy's ranch,
which was what we would call a pitch deck, or what we would call a sizzle, or you know, in the industry, in how you talk about it now. That's all we were doing. We were just doing a small one episode. Yep. That's it. And I think we
give somebody a flavor. Maybe we get some investors. Or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows where it goes?
And we end up selling ourselves on it.
It's very hands off. But what happened out there that day was incredible.
Yeah.
we would be filming something, and there would be a rainbow behind you. Do you remember the rainbow?
The rainbow, and then the eagle fly. I mean, the eagle flying in, and
was the feasting of resistance, or however they say that. It was. I'm flying the drone, and this property. I got to tell this story. This property has this house that overlooks this giant lake. I'm not talking a pond. It's like it's this lake type thing. It's huge.
Yeah.
I guess we call them tanks down here in Texas.
Well, that's a lake. That's a true lake.
It's a monster. You put a boat on that bad boy. You're not going very far, but you put a boat on it.
Yeah.
And it has this pathway that cuts through one of the sections, so like you can drive across this body of water. And Jake's got it timed out where he's going to walk across this body of water, and I'm going to come dipping down all the trees, looking at the tank, and zoom in on Jake walking across this this road that cuts across. Already an epic shot, and we line it up at the first time, and it doesn't quite get it, but we hit it on the second time, and this eagle comes, probably to take my drone.
I mean,
snatch it or something.
Probably with lens flares, and the sun going down. I mean,
we got done, and I show him the footage because I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, well, I wonder what we got, and I'm looking back at the footage, and we both lose our minds. Because it's like, that's some National Geographic.
That was God stuff. That was just God stuff.
On like a $600 drone. It was like,
bro.
That was only the Lord right there.
It
inspired us.
It was. I think we sold ourselves. I mean, I said that a minute ago. We sold ourselves. We can do this.
Yeah.
And not only can we do this, but we have to keep up with this level of production now. So it set the bar way high.
I totally forgot about that.
And then that's when I was like, oh boy, I gotta go get a bunch of money. I was like, gotta figure this out, And lo and behold, a guy called me and was like, hey, can you flip this house for me? And I was like, I can have it done in a month and a half. I'm ready. And literally went and flipped the house in a month and a half, made like 30 or 40 grand, and we dumped that. I turned around and just dumped that money straight into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I risked it all. You're going to find out in my lifetime. You're going to hear me say it. I have risked it all.
This is thematic of your flow. If you're going, might as well go all in.
You might as well go all in. I mean, you just
leave anything on the table. Everything's on the field. We're going to mix all sorts of metaphors.
You got to go for it. I mean, or what are you going to do? Wake up 10 years from now and go, I didn't go for it.
Still hadn't made that passion project.
Didn't go for it. No, you just find some courage. I don't know if there's anything I could say in all this is find some courage, believe in yourself enough, humble yourself, get around people that'll teach you, and the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. Serve, love on people, be around people that can teach you and help you. I mean, and then just believe in yourself. I mean, I think that was the biggest selling point was I just truly believed that we could do it. I knew we could from then on. I was like, we can do this.
Well, I won't jump into all of Heart in Many Colors because that's probably an entire podcast in and of itself. 100%. But what was the result of that? What did you learn from Heart in Many Colors? What came?
Well, what I did learn is that we produced it and it put me into a learning cycle. I spent a year editing it. Literally 1 year I spent in the cave on 52 episodes that was shot around the world, 25 different locations around the world. But the product went exponential, and we had millions and millions and millions of interactions and views, 60,000 people a month on the website going through, looking at curriculum, looking at stuff, it worked. And it not just worked, it went, we were doing things that nobody else was doing in that time.
Yeah.
Again, it was one of those moments where I had a 0.00001% on per interaction. So it cost me whatever that, I don't even know, that 1,000th of a penny was what it cost me for my reach.
Oh, all day.
Which is, you can't find that return nowhere in life. Nowhere. And you look up and, you're averaging 1 million something. And this was pre really viral videos in that regards too, in some ways. And so, but for them to end it, but for the people to track from watching it to the website, literally having 65,000 people on the website.
Now, this for folks who are not familiar, if you're going, I hear a lot of people ask me, they're like, well, what's the point? What's the reason? Why the reach? Why spend money on AdSense or ads or anything like that? And this is why. Because 65,000 people came to your website off of a video. Now,
off a video.
But 65,000, if you did 10% of those conversions, depending what your price point is, you're making some money. But hear this as well. You took something like, so let's say you have $1 and you put it in a bucket. And out of that bucket, it yielded $4.
Mm-hmm.
You'd put money in that bucket all day long,
and again and again and again
and again. And it just keeps on producing for you. So if you can find things like what you just landed in right there, a favor of the Lord moment of a 0.0001%, hammer down.
And I got invitations to speak all over the world.
Yeah.
All over the world, to the largest crowds, to hundreds of thousands of people, and it did what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
It works. It really works. And I mean, I got to the point to where people knew me as, oh, you're the Heart of Many Colors guy,
Was that weird at all?
Yeah, of course it is. You don't, random strangers come up to you and they're like, oh, you're the Heart of Many Colors guy. I'm like,
what's funny about that?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm the guy, but I don't know what that image is. I don't know. I was like, I don't know what that means for you.
What I don't think people understand is, to them, they're saying, oh, you're the guy all over social media talking about, Heart of Many Colors,
Jesus,
Heart of God.
Yeah.
But you may or may not see yourself, because the image that I have in my head is you're the guy who's walking with a plant through Times Square, getting stopped by every crazy riding the subway with a plant while we're filming.
With a guy giving me the double middle finger. Yeah, I mean.
So I guess it's a matter of perspective. You're the guy.
You're that guy.
Yeah, you're the guy on social media. They have no idea what it took to get you there. By the way, that guy was so close to the kingdom.
Oh, man.
There was a couple of those.
There's a couple of those deals where you were just like, this is wild.
This is demonically charged individuals who are trying to disrupt what you're conducting. Like, you're sharing the gospel. You pull a little girl. This isn't filmed. You pull a little girl off to the side. Caught up in witchcraft, sorts of things. You're you're telling her about Jesus, that y'all are having a bit of a moment. And this guy comes up, Times Square, of course, so it's bopping. Comes up in a full-on, like,
chains and gnarly demon-looking face.
Mask thing, chains up, no shirt, Speedo type thing, as I recall. And then blaring music and, like, trying to get over there to you and interrupt what you have going on. And it was like
direct warfare.
Constantly.
And let's just jump on that for a second. If you think that there's not going to be warfare over your production, then just don't even try. Like, you got to go into this with a mentality of, if it can go wrong, it could go wrong, it might go wrong.
Yeah. And
not to be afraid of that. And that's what I would say, again, with courage. You got to just jump out and do it. You think you're going to get backlash? Yeah. You think people are going to troll you? Yeah. You think you're going to get people saying all kinds of things about you? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that going to deter you from solving the problem that God gave you the solution for? No.
There's a gentleman, I can't remember his name right now, but he says, if God's called you to something, if he's called you to something, expect that once you put your face towards it, once you do some intentionality towards operating in what he's called you to, you should expect that the enemy's going to come against you. You should expect that there's going to be all sorts of wipeouts and stuff.
Yep.
But it's so easy to make that statement and so hard to walk it, because, as you know, you get into the production process and you're like, everything's going wrong. Not one thing's going right. I must not be supposed to do it.
And that's, again, that goes back to having seasoned veterans with you.
That's right.
Again, I mean, if there's one thing that I'll say over and over again in this whole process of stepping out in business, stepping out in media, stepping out in all these things that we're going to be talking about, you have got to find men or other leaders, women, either one, it doesn't matter, that can walk with you, and their time is worth money.
Yeah, that's right.
There's some that will volunteer to help you a little bit, but if you really want intrinsic value, if you really want some deep value, they're worth it.
Yeah.
And to pay for it.
A labor is worthy of his wages.
100%.
Especially if they're sewing in, man. It's invaluable. I've come across some people who have been part of like coaching programs and whatnot,
Mhm.
and I'll go, man, like, why would you spend that kind of money to have like, like a paid somebody in your corner type of a thing? Until I've come across some people that carry an anointing for a certain thing that I'm trying to tap into, and I'm like, I will pay you whatever it takes to get what's inside of your nugget and inside of your heart and get some of that on me.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. To move this ball, to get it off of stuck,
Yeah.
because it is such an unlock.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you hammered it with that. Well, I know you produced Heart of Many Colors, smashing hit. I think India went bonkers.
Still is.
Still is going.
Still is.
Still is going off. That's really cool to hear. You dipped your toe into some other productions as well. What was that like? Tell us about them.
Yeah, so getting to be a part of some different movies and stuff along the way, where I was featured in some other documentaries, and I got to watch how documentaries were produced. And really, it's two guys. It's a guy that's a mic, and it's a mic guy, and it's a video guy. I mean, you could strip down documentaries to that. You could strip documentaries down to one man with a camera and mics. So if you've got a heart to make a documentary, and you got camera skills and mic skills and editing skills, you can make a documentary.
Yeah.
To what level and scale you want to make it,
right,
that's a whole nother conversation, right? So, I think when I started seeing how, honestly, to me, in my view of like, oh, it's easy, like this could be done, like get a couple camera guys and take off on the road, that's kind of how easy it seemed to me, right? So we just jumped off the boat, and a buddy of mine called me named Chris Worthington, who filmed with us in Heart of Many Colors.
Love Chris.
Beyond talented.
Yes.
And he said, hey, I just got invited to do the docu-series of Reinhard Bonnke's life story. And I said, man, do you need any help? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, where's the first film? Where are we filming first? And he's like, Arizona Stadium. And then I called you, and I'm like, hey, jump in the plane. We're going to Arizona.
We did indeed. Well, for folks who don't know who Reinhard Bonnke is, who is Reinhard Bonnke?
Yeah, he's led crowds to the tune of 1.9 million people in his meetings and his gatherings. You can't see the end of the crowd. He's led over 79 million people to the Lord, entire cities, entire regions in Africa. And so he's somebody that has pioneered at the top level, 1, 2, 3 most significant gatherers of our time,
So he's like a Billy Graham.
He's like a Billy Graham for guys that have context for America. He was the Billy Graham of Africa.
Wow.
And Chris got the baton to tell that story of Daniel Kalinda, who took over and who was taking over, and then Daniel's passing the baton to the next generation. So it was this cool storyline of from generation to generation, and to taking it to everybody that we can all do this. We can all be the answer. And
gotcha. Moving it from 1.9, million people in a stadium down to tables,
but also down to the power of media.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell the story. You and I can sit down and tell the story to 1.9 million people now. I'm just sitting here telling stories. So I think it was that. It was inspiration to inspire others and to bring them along. And the first thing we jumped into was filming inside of a stadium with Kanye West. With the Sunday service.
Sunday service. Listen, you can say what you will about Kanye. I thought it was going to be genuine at the time, But Sunday's
Sunday
service was
service.
legit.
They were throwing down. I just never forget being in the middle of them, filming in the center of the choir.
That was crazy. I remember you have this knack for getting into the center of the action. And at the time, I did not have that. That was still being broken off of me. So you're always like, let's push, let's get in there. We need it for the shot. And I'm thinking, I need the shot, but like, goodness, I don't think we're allowed. We don't have the credentials. Credentials do not matter. Credentials do not matter.
I have a camera in my hand. This is getting the shot.
And we push up in there, and we ended up, like you said, the show is amongst the people.
Yeah, and it was crazy because I'm like, I am capturing the shots. Like, I am capturing inside of his choir in the middle of a stadium full of people, and I am capturing the shot. And you're just like, oh man, this is cool. Like, it all started with just like, hey, a buddy of ours is going to make a documentary, and we all jumped in the plane.
Exactly.
Like,
all three of us.
Yeah.
Having the time of our lives. And we're also, it was fun because it was also like a Jesus moment. Like, I mean, they were leading worship.
Big time.
And we were right in the center of people having like an encounter who not usually do. They broke onto the field to be a part of that as well. And we're just like, we're capturing it. It's happening.
Well, and what ended up turning into all that was, then I'm talking to Jake Hamilton, backstage at the other event, and he was releasing a new song, or he was releasing a song. And I said, do you have anybody capturing that song? And he's like, no, I don't have a media team with me. And I was like, we can do it. And so literally captured his song and produced a music video while we're filming the documentary, and then did another interview with Pete Gregg.
Yes.
Like we wrapped, we did a podcast interview. We did a behind the scenes.
I think
all
people overcomplicate this, man, because I remember my job on that location was to go up to the top and film from the top.
Yep.
And by the time I got there, the lens length, they wouldn't let me any further. The lens length was too far. So you and Chris end up capturing a lot of it on a cell phone, as I recall. Like, there's the shots, but there was a ton of it that they ended up incorporating off of your cell phone, which is a story for another time. But you were a gangster in using your cell phone to capture some stuff. So I just think people overcomplicate it when they hear documentary, music video.
Yep.
You slam that rig up with
and I edited it.
Cell phone.
I was gonna say, I mean, I captured it. I captured it on the cell phone, and I literally had my cell phone and a GH5, filming with a GH5 and a cell phone simultaneously like this. I mean,
I think the cell phone was better.
And it was at the time. I mean, it was for what I was capturing in that moment. And, like what I'm trying to say is I didn't have a rack. I didn't have a rack to put my cell phone on. I literally was holding both of them, keeping stabilizers like this, stabilizing with both of my arms and moving my shoulders so that I didn't move it, and it worked. Yeah. I mean, it worked. His video, I mean, it went all over social media. I mean, and again, it just, I think you got to seize the moment. I think you got to see the opportunity and believe in yourself enough to go, I can do this. I'm going to just do it. And if you fail, who cares? Like, but if you don't, you just got to capture, like, I mean, even for Jake, like him and I became great friends after that. And we've done events together, and we have done other things together. I mean, like, it opened up a friendship because I got to serve through my gift of, storytelling. So, people, I think I get asked this question a lot, it's like, how did you do what you done? Have you accomplished it? I'm like, I just saw a problem and solved it. Like, I knew that needed to be told, that story needed to be told, or that needed to be captured. That's it.
I think a lot of people get it confused. I mean, they'll look at your life and go, "Oh man, Jake, you're all over social. How did you do it?" And you're like, "It was really a cell phone and a couple of buddies." I feel bad for Chris sometimes because Chris is now because this project that you're working on, spoiler alert, will go on to win awards and be number one in its category. And was it?
Yeah, in episodics. I mean, it was the number one episodic series of 2024.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which got, I mean, was huge. Like, it was huge, went box office, and we actually went theaters nationwide.
That was so fun. We did a private little screening just to give people a taste here in Stephenville, and Stephenville's not a big town. This isn't one of the banner flagships that's gonna
No.
rake them in the money, but it was so special to be able to invite people. You did a private viewing,
Yep.
just for the people who had invested
Yeah.
in you and us along the way, and then you took them to a theater and opened it up for the churches to get a discounted rate at the theaters.
Yeah, they pay, and we sold out.
Do some evangelism,
Yep.
invite a neighbor.
Yep.
It was so much fun.
Yep.
That was one of those things where I was like, how do we figure out a way to get red carpets and lights and stuff? And you were like, no, man, just take what we got.
We're just gonna, and we did red carpet events, and we did it. We rented out an entire movie theater and did full red carpet and had, all the things. But again, if you would ask me if I would have been part of producing a number 1 episodic show in America, I'd have told you no way. Like, that was not in my repertoire. That was not even that wasn't even an initiative or a goal. It was just, there's a problem. The problem is people don't understand how much we need the gospel in America and how powerful the gospel is.
Yes.
And what's the answer? Do it through television and movies and media. So I just was solving another problem. And by doing that, it put us around other people. And brought my sister on board, who opened up a studio, which is For the One Studio down in Houston.
Gorgeous studio.
It's phenomenal. She killed it.
She does such a job. Such a great job.
Killed it. And again, that to my sister's story, the way that all transpired.
She might be winning awards as well.
She already is. Number one podcast. I mean, she has won literally incredible awards. But you want to know how that started? Her and I were on a TV show together, and it was this rundown area, okay? And I'm like, this is not good. I'm like, we're both looking at each other like we're driving in a really nice vehicle, in the back area of this town, and I'm like, man, our car's going to get broke into probably.
Wait. How did you get approached about this deal?
They wanted to know my story. They wanted to know who I was and hear my story.
Okay.
And so, you'd think at that time, this was, golly, I'm trying to remember now, 2015, probably, or maybe 16. Yeah. 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. Golly, that's 10 years ago.
Oh, man.
And they're like, come to our studio, our television studio. And this was going worldwide. This was on television worldwide at this time. So I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to be this like big studio, whatever.
Marble floor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you show up to a warehouse in the back area of this city, because most warehouses are in, areas of the city that are not nice, and it's an industrial neighborhood. It's an industrial park, right? So, and you're coming in the back area and you're just like, okay, whatever. But we get in there and they're nice, and the people are really nice, and they're sweet, and we do this interview, and immediately we just look at each other, and she looks at me and she goes, we can do this. And I was like, yeah, sure we can. And she goes, I'm going to open a studio. And she's like, I just think God wants me to open a studio. So I was like, yeah, I think you should. And I think it'd be great, And so she started just kind of praying through it, really. Didn't really know anything about it. She had a communications degree, but she was an interior designer, and they were building homes and custom homes, and her and her husband, and so, I mean, there wasn't anything about the studios or film or media or anything like that. And lo and behold, she jumps off and starts a studio, and it ends up becoming a studio where Nike now shoots, where Wilson shoots, where Travis Scott, the rapper, just produced out of there, where Lecrae just did all his new podcast out of, where we shot Kim Walker's music video, Alex Pappas' music video. I mean, I could start going down the list of, we're getting to capture the industry leaders of their time. And then now she's even helping produce other things like Will Smith and Lecrae and, other stuff, that she's now working with all of these actors and producers and talking to all these other filmmakers now. And you know how it started? We had a conversation and we just said, I think we could probably do this.
I think we do this. There's a problem here.
There's a problem.
We could fix it.
I think we can make a really nice studio in a really nice area.
Oh yeah. Your sister's studio, For the One Studio, by the way, is not in a bad area.
No.
It's in a great area.
Right by the airport.
It's in this. It is kind of like a warehouse type building, but it is.
But it's a business park
It's a business park
on a major highway.
Clean.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it is gorgeous. You can tell that she was an interior decorator.
Yeah, it looks like you're walking into a home.
What is this? It is so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool. We've been down there to do some filming a while back.
Yep. And we've produced out of there, and I've been on a ton of podcasts we've produced out of there. And they work. I mean, they work, and what happens out of those rooms and out of those podcasts and out of those films and out of that works. And it reaches people in massive ways and brings in, massive opportunities.
Yes.
So
I think that's definitely something that Christians are a little behind the eight ball in. We got behind a little bit in the process, but I think we're finding our stride whenever people like you come forward and your sister and say, it's in rocket science. Well, let's just solve the problem. Is the Lord in it? Let's ask him. He's in it. He's going to provide. Let's go do it. So let's start with a cell phone and a GH5.
Literally. And I mean, and I think that's, if I can speak to anybody, it's also, do you have a microphone and do you have a computer and do you have a wall in your house that you could turn into a podcast backdrop?
Yeah.
Do a podcast.
Yeah.
If you really want to get serious and you really want to go after something and you have a business and you don't have the time or you don't want to or you don't even want to think about it, you just want to sit down and tell your story, then hire it out.
Yeah.
And let somebody else do that.
AI has come a long way as well. It takes 30 seconds these days for them to chop up your podcast. Now,
there is, and I was going to say, you can't hang all over AI either,
Yeah, you're going to watch them. But...
Yeah, because AI will, at the same, simultaneously, AI is only regurgitating information.
Right.
It is not creatively solving the problem either, right? So it doesn't know necessarily how to solve problems in the way of creativity and how God can give you intuitive thought.
It's almost like, I don't know. And I know God didn't have the AI process, I'm sure he had it in mind. He knew it was coming, but he left it to the creatives I'm going to mess that up. Creators.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Content creators, great. But we're made in his image. We're going to be creative.
Yeah. And AI is a tool, right? You use it as a tool in the tool belt. And I mean, AI does all kinds of stuff for me now, but at the same time, here in about 4 or 5 years, everybody's going to have the same tool, and it's not going to be cutting edge anymore.
Yeah,
and then it's going to be like, oh, that's just AI. The playing field's going to go. Whoop. You're going to have to know how to go from here and solve the problem again.
Yep.
If you don't, you're here again.
It's still the game, isn't it?
And it never changes.
If you're a business owner or entrepreneur, you have an audience. You have people that you love, and you want to solve a problem for. That's why you've made your product or service.
That's right.
So how do you serve them at the highest level possible? If you can do that, you beat out your competition, and you make a little money in the process.
That's right.
You've served somebody at the highest level.
That's right.
In media, it's really no different, is it?
It is no different whatsoever. And media can either exponentially grow your ability to solve the problem, or you don't.
Well, do this for me. Let's say you have a young producer out there, and they think they have a problem that they could solve for their audience. What would you say to them?
I'd say number one is if you're helping solve the problem for someone else, right? So if you're called in as a producer, hey, I want to make this, right? Let's just say a documentary for rescuing animals, right? Like that's the problem. There is thousands of animals on the street, and I need to rescue those animals, and I need help telling the story. Well, number one, you got to go, what is the story? Is the story the animals, or is the story the person rescuing the animals? You got to then differentiate who you're telling the story for and who you're telling the story of, so that you can actually solve the problem in your storytelling and draw people into an actual experience, not just information, right? Because if you start going down the rabbit trail of, well, I'm just going to start filming everything, well, then you film nothing, right? We've learned that.
Oh, we have learned that.
You film everything, you film nothing, right? You have to then sit back as a producer and go, okay, number one, how much is it going to cost?
Mm-hmm.
How much am I going to charge for this? And does the client have the ability to do that? Because if they don't have the ability to pay for it, you're going to waste your time. If they have the ability to pay for it and you don't know how much to charge, you're going to waste your time. So that right there off the front end is being able to assess properly your role and their role, and if they can bring it together, or there's a third party that funds it for them, and you bring on an investor to tell the story. So, that's genuinely, how you can begin to solve that problem as a producer, and asking those questions. Then once you answer those questions, you then begin to start going, how am I going to solve this problem through a story that will initiate people into an experience that will draw them onto a solution to be a part of solving it. And so you then start taking them through a journey and to let them find themselves on the journey. And once they find themselves on that journey and then they realize, oh, there's the door to walk through to solve the problem with these people, then they walk through the door. That's either resources, that's time, that's money, that's management, that's exposure, that's all the different things that are going to come through that door that you did by telling that story and serving your craft. You are now solving the problem by helping rescue more dogs off the street, or,
right.
Just for instance. Yeah.
So you're saying, for those familiar with StoryBrand, you're taking your potential viewer on the hero's journey, and you are the guide. You're saying,
yep,
you get to tell it. You get to take a perspective, and then whatever your client tells you, hey, this is our target audience. That is the hero of the journey, and you mean as a hero meet the problem, and this is how you're gonna. That's really good. That's a really good tip for a young producer. Didn't see that one coming. So what do you have on your plate these days? What's challenging you? What problem can they expect as you progress up the chain? Because the problems don't stop. That seems to be the thing that is consistent. There's always a bigger and bigger problem.
I was going to say there's just a bigger problem that you're being called to help solve the problem of. And right now, my biggest problem to solve is the fatherless epidemic in America. Men not being men. And how do I storytell that and invite men into the process of not just becoming a man, but what is a man? We've lost that. And then
I feel like there's a documentary going the other way with that one.
I think we have documentaries. I think we have television. I think we have.
I think old Matt Walsh made a What is a Woman documentary a while back. I know. Probably not the same vein as what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And that one, that one is it's like it's the greatest problem in America.
Yeah.
And every statistic shows it. And every response of what we see in America is demonstrating it. And so there's that story to be told that I am trying to pioneer with the best of my abilities, and I'm way in over my head. And I know Jesus knows that, and he'll take care of that. And he always does, and he always will, and he always has, down to we have lost the center core reality of that the table is the center point of the family. And when the family has left the table and eating together and dining together, then the family unit falls apart. And when the family unit falls apart, then you see every kind of dysfunction in America that causes problem, from crime rates to suicide, anxiety, depression, all the other, we could just keep going down the list. And that's the next problem to solve, is how do you bring the family back to the table?
You believe that men have an integral part of
I I know, let me rephrase it. I know the fact that if a man sets the table for his family and calls his family back to the table, we could restore America. And
That's a heavy sentence, bro.
it's a heavy sentence that only God could do. And it's a God dream. And I only want to live in God dreams.
We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. We get accused, you and I, a lot of living with our heads in the clouds because we do like to dream and ideate from time to time and see what's possible. Because from my perspective, it's like that revelation that comes from heaven. That's the stuff that makes the world go around.
Yep.
But we were saying, is there really any other way to live?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
At least in my life. I mean,
that's pretty much what every good story, everything that we love about the Bible, the people who have gone before us and walked with the Lord, they have heard from him.
mm-hmm.
He is addressing an issue or a problem in their life, in their world. And if they say yes to that process, they get transformed, their community, their families, their communities get transformed. And those are the stories that we go, man, I want that. Otherwise, I don't know if you have a pulse.
I mean, I think back to the moments of, you go to Bible stories and this guy goes, come follow me. Drop everything. Come follow me. Dude, that's crazy.
That is crazy. Right now.
That's crazy.
Not like, let me run home and tuck the kids in. I'll be with you tomorrow, pack a bag and a sleeping bag.
But their names are written in a book that is the most historically accurate and still the highest selling book in the world.
Yeah.
And their names are written in it. There's no other 12. There ain't no other 12. Those 12 got in the book.
They said yes.
They said yes.
I got it.
I'm just saying, if I can be in the book that Jesus wants to write for today, if my name can go down in that book and he can see, if he says, follow me, and I don't want to follow him and I say no, then I forfeit my ability to change the world as we know it. And not for an arrogant statement, but a statement of, I will follow you and he will change the world. And if you ride in the wake of Jesus, you will be a part of changing the world. And that's just what I've learned, is I've just grabbed onto his coattail and I ain't letting go. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, still to this day. Even right now as I sit in this chair, I'm facing difficulty and opposition and hardships and trials like nobody's business. And I have to convince myself today, this morning, as I got up and read and I pray and I read my journal of all the words that I'm following, all the things that I declare over myself, that I am a solution to the problem with Jesus on my side. I am somebody that can change the world as we know it. I am someone that can stand up for what's right. I am a great father. I am a great husband. I pray for my kids. I pray for my wife. I declare what we are as a family. I take ownership and accountability to who I am as a man. And I have to do that every day, because I can wake up tomorrow and go, nah, that's for somebody else, and you can punt it. Or you have the audacity and the courage. Courage has just been this thing I just keep going over and over and over and over again in my head, because it's kind of become my, I don't know what you say, mantra of, I think I found secret sauce. I think I found the secret sauce to just being alive, and that's to have courage to tackle your fears. And it only comes through the power of the Holy Spirit. Courage is found nowhere else other than the heart of God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can have courage and obviously go take a bullet for somebody in the military. Listen, courage is everywhere. You can get on a bull and ride a bull. You can do all those things, and they're great, and there's courage, and no doubt, and I honor every one of those guys. But courage to lay down your life and follow a man, that it will eternally make a difference. And yes, you still may take a bullet for somebody, and you still may lay down your life, but it'll be so far more valuable in the kingdom, as a kingdom impact. And that's where real courage comes from. And that's where standing up and having a voice, and not being silenced and muzzled and, all the things. When Jesus says, hey, I need you to share this, then you need to share it. I need you to video this. You need to video it. Regardless of everybody in the room going, I don't think you should share that, and I don't think you should video it.
Oh, I'm sure you've never heard that.
Not one time.
He says tongue in cheek.
And but I have to be accountable to what I hear. I got to be accountable to what he tells me to do, and I got to do it. And there's times that I haven't. There's times that I punted it, and I'm just like, I don't want to do that again. That wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And you wallow around in shame and guilt and, woe is me and victim mentality, and you end up doing nothing except just wallowing in a pit, until you decide to get up and have some courage and get vulnerable and go, I don't want to be in this pit no more. I'm ready to get up, get out, So, I'm no Superman, and I'm no hero in that regards. I'm just a man that has the ability to just go, I don't want to live in fear. I want to have courage.
Yeah.
And my dad exemplified that, and my mom's has too, and so has my brothers and sisters, and my family is just, they've been some really courageous people that it's been cool to watch them, and my friends, all my friends. I mean, again, all the things you've done, all the things that my friends have done, you just get around courageous people, you do courageous things, and you change the world together.
I think you were just saying something the other day about when one man's back stiffens,
all the rest is stiffen with him.
Yep. Stiffen as well.
That's right.
Well, man, obviously we have such a history together, and there is so much and so many other stories that we could have gone into today. I'm just going to have you back on the podcast to dive into, just the top layer of good stuff that we're going to go into. But I do appreciate you coming by today and sharing with my audience, whoever that may be, some of the nuggets about how this works, how a faith journey works in this media realm. I want to end with this one thing, because I've been doing it now for the last couple podcasts, and I'm going to say to you, we have such a relationship, though. This doesn't work with him. We have such a relationship. You've already heard this before, but I'm going to say to you the things that I would never normally say face to face. So, you were talking about your boldness and your courage, and the other day, I think I've even told you this story, but it's just what comes to my heart. The other day, I was crying out to the Lord because I was frustrated with the people that I'm walking life with, and I was saying, Lord, there's just nobody understands, nobody gets what it's like to carry what I carry. Nobody gets what it's like to just go after you, to just leave it all behind, leave it all on the field, and just I have this word of boldness and courage and faith, and there's nobody. And immediately he brought your story to my mind, and over, and I'm seeing you through the lens of my camera. And I remember seeing you in front of a lighthouse and in front of the mountains and jumping into a river and sprinting down a beach. And it's like all of these just in a streamline. Do. And it was like the Lord said, nobody? So, my friend, you have been bold and courageous. You have been strong as a lion. Your faith is inspiring. And I don't want you to ever stop being who you are and doing what you do.
Yeah.
You have made the last couple of years that we've run together some of the best of my life. When we shot that Heart of Many Colors, I know we remember it fondly. I know that's just the beginning of what God has in store for us.
Yeah.
And I thank you immensely for the friend that you are, for the inspiration that you are, and of course for coming and hanging out a little bit on the old podcast.
Yeah.
I love you, dude.
Love you, bro. And I gotta say ditto to the same, is that, there's nobody else that has answered a call like you have. And anytime I have called and been like, I have an audacious dream that we have to tackle, you're like, I'm in the car. Or I was like, I'm going to meet with kings, and you're like, I'm in the car. I'm going to meet with Trump. I'm in the car. Like, there's nobody in my life that has literally gone, I'm in the car, like you have, to a degree that, you realize, how much your friendship and your partnership in my life, I would never have achieved any of this. And that's why your value is beyond measurable. It's beyond being able to put a price tag to it or a notion to it. It's just you were there. You've always been there, and you've been a ride or die in my life that I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have made it in life. I don't know that I'd have made it in a lot of things had you not have gone, I'm in the car with you. And so, I want to send that right back to you that I couldn't do this without you, and I don't want to do life without
Same.
having you in a car. And so, dude, I'm more than excited about the future that's ahead. I'm more excited about life ahead and what God's about to accomplish through two guys that don't know a lot, but we know enough to be dangerous.
I don't know the most, but I
know a lot.
Oh, man.
That was fun.